In the last 6 years, I've made tens of thousands of dollars flipping video games from pawn shops like this one. Today, I'm looking specifically for the kinds of games and items that I can sell profitably on QuickFlips today, and along the way, I'm gonna be giving you my 10 insider tips on how to find profitable games at pawn shops. Tip number one, folks, is go to every single pawn shop in your area multiple times to determine which ones have the best deals. I came to this one specifically today because I've done business multiple times with Shane before, and I know, as you guys can see from the clips here, his prices are really solid. When you know from the outset that the place you're dealing with has really solid baseline prices, it's going to be much easier to negotiate a deal that works for both of you. And folks, it looks like this is going to be the first quick flip of the day that we found. Sticker price actually would net us a $2 profit here, 12 on quick flips. And that's because you can see from this little icon here that this game is on our hot list. I know in reality the deal's going to be better than that because Shane here always hooks me up because we like to do large deals. We'll talk about that later. But tip number two is going to be know the hot list. All of the highest prices that we offer, whether it's on games or consoles or controllers, are all going to be sorted here by console on the hot list tab. So I would definitely get familiar with this, study it, and know the prices that we're offering here because they are going to be some of the best around. Now this is another interesting example. This one is marked at 20 bucks and our hot list price actually is $20 as well. And whether or not you're able to profitably quick flip a game like this will depend entirely on how the negotiation goes. If you have a prearranged deal with a shop that maybe you're buying a certain amount and they can do 10 or 15 or 20 or 25% off, then you'll be able to know you can still make some money on a game like this. One thing that you'll sometimes run into is unpriced inventory like these games. And the nice thing about looking these things up on QuickFlips ahead of time before making an offer is you can know in advance exactly what you are going to make on them and you can structure your offers accordingly. Tip number three, folks, is for goodness sakes, tell them what you do. So many resellers out here are like super cagey and awkward and stuff when they're in local stores or pawn shops, not wanting to say, ooh, I'm flipping stuff, ooh, walking on pins and needles. The reason that I'm here and I'm able to publicly scan stuff and look for things that work for my business is because I'm just honest with other business owners about what I'm doing here. This next one that I found in the DS case here is also one that's kind of on the bubble, the Pokemon Diamond version loose for 44. This one in QuickFlips is 41 in loose condition, so this would only make sense if you're getting like a 20-ish plus % bulk discount on your purchase. Folks, as a bonus guest for tip number 4 here, I have Shane, the owner of this store. Shane, I wanted to ask, what's your biggest tip for local resellers who are looking to do more deals with pawn shops?
Yeah, so if you go into a pawn shop, just try and be as friendly as possible with the guys. I usually, when I used to do the kind of pawn shop hopping and looking for stuff, I would just tell them what I was doing. Just be honest with them. Just tell them, hey, you know, I resell on Amazon or QuickFlips or whatever you're trying to do. And just be friendly. Don't go in expecting a deal. Don't get upset with them if they don't give you a deal, that kind of stuff, because it happens more than you would think. And you think it's common sense to be friendly, but it really just, some people just aren't friendly.
That's a great tip. And you're naturally going to want to do more business with people that you like more, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm one of those people that, like, if you come into my shop and you're not friendly with me, I'm just not going to give you a deal. So, I mean, it's just as simple as that. So, if you're rude to me or my employees, especially to my employees, I'm not gonna work with you. So
awesome tip, thank you, man.
Yep.
Here's a little mini bonus tip for you guys. Anytime I'm in a section that has a bunch of a certain kind of game and I want to kind of look them up rapid fire, I'll go to our actual hot list section and I'll sort it by console. I'll go to 3DS here, and then I can just scroll and see at a glance all of our prices and which of the games in this case we're likely to actually have hot list prices for. Tip number 5 I have for you folks is the rule of reciprocity. And this is where, not just in pawn shops, but in negotiations that you're having anywhere, you shouldn't be leading with what you want to get out of the deal. You should be leading with what value you can provide, because if the other person feels like they're going to get something good out of the deal, they'll be more likely to want to reciprocate. So let me give you 2 little examples here. The first example is actually something that I was asking Shane about last time I was here, which is I love to ask the question, do you have any like stale inventory or stuff that you've just been sitting on a long time that you'd be really happy to be able to get rid of? Be curious, taking a look, would it like be helpful to you to like be able to move a decent chunk of them at once, or?
we can talk about
I found that framing the question in that way is helpful for two reasons. One, it signals that you're looking to solve one of their big problems. And two, what's likely to come up is the kind of inventory that they are most willing to do a good deal on anyway. Then the second way, and this is also tip number 6, is try as much as possible to work bulk deals. All kinds of store owners, vendors, other resellers, whoever you're working with, we all like to make big sales and move a lot of products. So a question that you will almost always hear me ask is, if I can buy enough stuff, would you be willing to do some kind of a discount? Or if, sometimes I'll make it concrete and I'll say, like, if I could buy 300 or 500 or $1,000 worth of stuff, what do you think that could look like in terms of like a percentage discount, right? You want to be very respectful and put the ball in their court. You want a deal that will genuinely be good for their business, but it also can really help when you're pulling different kinds of games and you know, okay, I would need to be at, say, $8 on this $10 game in order to make any money trying to quick flip it. It helps to know what kind of a percentage discount you could expect relative to the volume of games that you would likely be buying. Now, speaking of stale inventory and a bulk deal, I actually, when I asked Shane earlier if he had any stale stuff, he mentioned a whole bunch of consoles that he's had sitting in the back for a long time, which I'm really curious about because those can be absolutely fantastic items to flip, especially in bulk from pawn shops like this. Oftentimes consoles are the type of thing that will sit for them for a little bit longer depending on the clientele that they have. Now, the reason I'm back out at my car right now is because tip number 7 is bring stuff to trade. I have here a whole bunch of games that don't really work well for my business for one reason or another, but that's not to say that they won't necessarily work well for a pawn shop. So I've brought them to reduce the amount of cash that I have to pay out of pocket for all the stuff that I'm going to be buying and therefore increase my profit margins. And I actually love this tip even more for pawn shops than pretty much anywhere else to source, because what you bring them to trade doesn't necessarily have to be games or the kind of stuff that you're buying. It could be an old TV, or for some pawn shops, like, you know, a part of a sneaker collection, or it could be some rare collectible, or pawn shops will buy all kinds of stuff. If you've got an old watch or electronics or a knife collection or whatever, you can bring all of that. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to do 5 things at once right now. And all kinds of stuff could theoretically be used as trade credit to make the cash you have to pay out of pocket for a deal overall lower. All right, folks, well, it looks like we have found the N64 console backstock that Shane was referencing earlier. And what's really interesting about this is I'm seeing price tags of like $40, $100 on that one, $30 on this one. I'm guessing that's probably a difference between like console only and maybe like including a controller and hookups and a game or things like that. As I'm looking around, I don't see a ton of N64 hookups. That actually brings us to tip number 8, which is understand QuickFlip's console bonuses. What do I mean by that? Well, QuickFlips is a little bit unique in that when you see $43 here as what we're paying for a loose Nintendo 64, that's literally just for the console. No cords, no controllers, no games, no anything. And what's really interesting is if you look at our condition guidelines, you'll see that if you do include the original adapter on especially a lot of Nintendo consoles, you actually will get a bonus for including it. And so I just pulled up our console condition guidelines here. I don't know if you're going to be able to read that, but it's actually plus $4 for every OEM power adapter that we can include with any one of these that we would ship in. But what I'm thinking to myself is, man, if we could get these down to like $30 or less a piece, even if they are just the console only, that still leaves us a solid bit of room of $13 profit a piece. And that's if they don't include like any cords or adapters or anything with them. Now, one fair warning, I would try to avoid consoles like this or anything that's not tested and working, because if there are any kinds of condition issues or even deep cleaning that is involved, that could trigger additional deductions and remove the profit that we would get on a given unit. Ooh, look what I spy back there. Looks like I can get $80 for the console only of that jungle green model down there, which is very interesting. All right, so I just asked about these consoles here. Apparently $30 to $40 is their cost basis, not actually the price. That said, if I did offer like 35 a piece or so, Shane did say that they do all come with cords and a controller. So when you include cords and a controller in the price that you'd be able to get on QuickFlips, it comes out to, I think, about $54 a piece. So there definitely is still some money to be made there, which brings me to my tip number 9, which is if you have more time than you have money, get good at the skill of repairs. You can learn a ton on YouTube and be able to take all of the broken and 4 parts consoles from shops like these that they have sitting in some pile in a back room somewhere for really cheap and turn your time into money that way. A lot of repairs actually are really simple and can turn a $5 or $10 parts console into something that you can flip on QuickFlips for like 40, 50, 60. If it's like a PS4, sometimes up to $100. And actually, as I was looking at this GameCube here, it reminded me of tip number 10, which is pay attention to the monthly promotions on QuickFlips. That's something that you'll be able to stay up to date on with our monthly email newsletter. But for example, at the time of shooting this month QuickFlips is giving an extra $10 bonus on every GameCube console, which would make a big difference if you're able to make a bulk deal for multiple of them at a time at like a convention or a video game store or a pawn shop. Then my last tip, as I start to go through a little bit more of this overflow stuff here, is just to know and have the perspective when you're negotiating with anyone from a pawn shop to a GameStop owner to another reseller that you are genuinely on the same side. Too many resellers out there have a scarcity mentality. They're trying to take other people's slices of the pie, but when you have a mindset of being able to collaborate, you'll be able to do far more bulk deals like these, and it will become far easier to spot opportunities for cooperation. We small business owners just really need to stick together, and we have to all realize that it's not us versus each other, it's all of us versus the big guys.